All right, crypto dads, let's start with something simple. How many times this year have you heard, someone confidently saying crypto is dead? Because honestly, it just feels like we've heard it way too many times. And the interesting thing is they always say it with such passion and chutzpah.
Yeah, and it's the same people that were using that same passion to tell us to buy the exact top at the last cycle.
Exactly. So today we're not here to throw out price predictions or hype. No Bitcoin by Tuesday millionaire. What we want to do is take a step back and look at the bigger picture, because when you strip away the noise, there's some really structural reasons why 2026 could genuinely be the most important year in crypto.
Yeah, and this isn't just coming from one angle. It's showing up in macro, in institutions, in regulation, and in how crypto is actually being used.
Right. So here's the key thing up front. If 3 of the 7 reasons we're going to talk about today play out, it should change your mind, how you view crypto in the next 12 to 24 months. So this episode isn't about being blindly bullish. It's about understanding why the setup looks different this time.
Yeah, the last year has been strange for a lot of people. We've had genuinely good news, ETFs, adoption, clearer regulation, but price hasn't really reflected that in the way most people expected it to.
And historically, that's kind of a disconnect. Usually it does one of 2 things. It frustrates retail, let's be honest, and people start tuning out, they get bored, and assume that nothing's happening in crypto.
And that's usually the exact moment that institutions start positioning quietly in the background.
So for this episode, we've looked at multiple AI models, plus people like Tom Lee, Raoul Pal, Grayscale, Bitwise, are all pointing to independently different sources, different perspectives, but the same theme keeps showing up.
Yeah, and the important thing is that these aren't 7 isolated ideas, they reinforce each other.
Exactly. Think of them less as 7 predictions, but more like 7 building blocks. Once a few of these are locked into place, the rest becomes much easier to understand. All right, let's start with that one that's probably the most challenging for most.
Yeah, reason number 1, that the 4-year cycle is breaking. For well over a decade, Bitcoin followed what people call the 4-year cycle. That cycle lined up pretty neatly with Bitcoin halvings. Supply gets cut, price runs, then eventually the cycle resets.
That pattern trained a whole generation of investors to expect the same thing over and over again. But here's the question we have to ask. What happens if the people holding Bitcoin aren't the same people anymore?
Because that's the real shift. We've gone from mostly retail traders and crypto native funds
to ETFs, pension funds, asset managers, and long-term allocations owning a meaningful chunk of the supply. Those players don't trade the same way. They don't panic sell because sentiment flips for a week.
Now, this is where people like Tom Lee and Bitwise are saying the same thing. When ownership changes, cycles stretch.
And Raoul Pal adds another layer. When rates went to zero in 2021 and 2022, the global debt cycle was pushed forward. So instead of the cycle ending where people expected, it may extend further, potentially into 2026. This doesn't mean straight up. It means that the old timing model may simply be just outdated. So reason number 2, institutions are no longer interested, they're embedded. This is the big difference between institutions being curious about crypto and institutions building their businesses around it. We have crossed that line. ETFs weren't just a headline, they were the structural change. They allowed pensions and retirement funds to get exposure without even touching exchanges or wallets.
Yeah, and custody services then gave institutions a safe, regulated way to hold assets.
And now we're seeing banks issuing and settling assets directly on blockchain rails. This is not speculation, that's infrastructure.
And infrastructure money behaves very differently. It's slow, boring, and extremely sticky. It doesn't leave the market because price chops sideways for a few months. Now, reason number 3 is really important, and that's that governments are quietly joining the game. And this one doesn't get enough attention. Governments and states are starting to treat Bitcoin less like a speculative asset and more like a strategic reserve, similar to gold.
When a government holds Bitcoin, it's not trading it, it's removing the supply from the market long term. That creates what often called sovereign game theory. Once the player starts, others don't want to be lost.
And whether people like it or not, that changes Bitcoin's role on the global stage.
It adds legitimacy and tightens supply at the same time. And that combination has mattered for every major asset in history.
So I'm genuinely curious. Do you think the 4-year cycle is dead or just delayed? Drop a comment because we always read these.
All right, guys, reason number 4, liquidity setting up a tailwind. A lot of crypto price action can be explained by one word, liquidity. Liquidity simply means how easy it is to access money in the system.
Yeah, when money is tight, people reduce risk.
When money becomes easier, people start to look for growth again. Crypto sits right at the high end of that risk spectrum, which is why it tends to react early and strongly when liquidity turns.
Now, this is the core of Raoul Pal's macro thesis. Crypto doesn't need everyone to believe again. It needs the financial environment to loosen.
Debt rollovers and easing conditions lining up around 2026 make the setup worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. Now, reason number 5 is that tokenization is way bigger than most people realize. Tokenization sounds technical, but the idea is actually really simple. It means taking real-world assets like treasuries, funds, real estate, and moving them onto blockchain rails.
That allows assets to move faster, settle instantly, and become programmable. With institution tokenized assets, they don't just invest in crypto, they use it.
Yeah, and that's why people like Tom Lee argue tokenization could be one of the biggest financial unlocks since the internet.
All right, for example, Ethereum in particular sits at the center of this infrastructure. All right, guys, number 6, regulation has become a tailwind. For a long time, regulation was the biggest fear hanging over crypto. We all know that.
Yeah, and what we're seeing now is a shift from hostility to frameworks. Clear rules don't scare institutions, they enable them.
Big money doesn't hate crypto, it hates uncertainty. Once the rules are clear enough, capital moves in quickly.
And that's when participation really scales. And finally, reason number 7, stablecoins are the silent killer app. This might surprise some people, but the most important crypto product right now isn't Bitcoin or Ethereum.
It's stablecoins. Stablecoins are digital dollars that move instantly. They power payments, settlements, remittance, and on-chain finance.
They're boring, and that's exactly why they're winning.
They onboard people into crypto without them even realizing it. All right, guys, so why do these 7 facts that we've just mentioned matter? The big takeaway is that it forces reinforcement of each other.
Yeah, regulation enables institutions. Institutions stretch cycles.
Liquidity fuels assets. Tokenization and stablecoins create real-world usage.
Now that's how you move from speculation to structure. So guys, if crypto was just a passing trend, none of this would be happening.
What we're seeing instead is foundations being laid quietly.
And history shows the loud part usually comes after the groundwork.
Whether you're bullish, skeptical, or somewhat in between,
2026 is not a year that you want to ignore.
All right, guys, and thank you for tuning in to this latest episode of Daz Gone Crypto. Share your comments below. Are you bullish on 2026 in crypto, or have you just had enough?
Thanks, guys.
Take care. Ciao.
See you.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.